All right, we are on 6-9 of our ratios and rates unit, and this is fractions, decimals, and percents. And our learning target for today is I can convert between fractions, decimals, and percents. Okay, so our first thing here is percents as fractions, so writing a percent as a fraction in simplest form. So we want to write 8 1/3% in simplest form. Well, since it is a percent, that means that it is over 100. So we take 8 1/3 over 100. That's how we always write percents. Think 25%. That's 25 over 100. All right, now over 100 is the same thing as dividing by 100. So we take 8 1/3 and we are dividing it by 100. 8 1/3, let's write it as an improper fraction. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So 25 over 3 divided by 100. Now, any whole number can be written as a fraction over 1. And now whenever we do division, keep, change, flip. So 25 over 3. And now we change to multiplication and we flip our second one to 1 over 100. Now we can do our multiplication, which 25 times 1 is 25. 3 times 100 is 300. So 25 300ths, which simplifies to 1/12. All right, so that is the way that we write these percents as fractions. Put them over 100, just like normal, divide, simplify. Next one, a collectible action figure sold for 190% of its original price. Write this percent as a fraction in simplest form. Well, 100, we take our 190%. Since it's a percent, it's out of 100. Now we can simplify this down to 19 over 10. And we could write it as an improper fraction, which would be 1 9/10. Just a little quick note here. A percent greater than 100 is equal to a number greater than 100. So for this one, we had 190%, which is equal to 1 9/10. It's more than 100%, therefore it's more than one whole number. All right. A couple here for you to try on your own, and then come back and check. All right, 150%, we write 150 over 100. That simplifies to 15 over 10, and then I can divide again by 5, which would be 3 over 2, and I could write it as a mixed number, 1 1/2. 17.5%, so we write 17.5 over 100. All right, now 17, that's the same thing as 17.5 divided by 100. 17.5 we write as an improper fraction. So 17 times 2 plus 1 is 35 over 2 divided by 100 over 1. Keep, change, flip. 35 over 2 times by 1 over 100. That equals 35 over 200, which would then simplify down to be, if we divide them by 5, 7 over 40. All right, now we are trying to write fractions as percents. Write 4/15 as a percent, round to the nearest hundredth. All right, well, 4 over 15, first let's do a quick estimate. 4/15 is pretty close to 4/16, and 4/16 is equal to 1/4, which equals 25%. So our answer should be pretty close to 25%. All right, now what we're going to do this time, I'm going to take my 4/15ths, and I'm going to set this up as a proportion, and we want it to be out of 100. Because it's a percent, it needs to be over 100, and we need to find out what that would equal then. So the 4/15ths equals n over 100. I just set up a proportion. Now I do my cross multiplication, and I come up with 1 times 4 is, or 100 times 4 is 400. 15 times n is 15n. All right, divide both sides. We have to get that n by itself, so we divide both sides by 15. So n equals, or is approximately, rounded to the nearest hundredth, 26.67, which tells us that our percent is 26.67%, which that's pretty close to our 25%, so therefore that answer does make sense. All right. Next one, in Boston, 89 out of 100,000 residents blog. Write this fraction as a percent. So 89 over 100,000. Again, we would want to set up a proportion, and we want a percent, which is out of 100, and we need to know what that would be. Do your cross multiplication. 100 times 89 is 8,900. 100,000 times x is 100,000 x. Divide both sides by 100,000. So x equals 0.089, which means our answer, 0.089% of the people, of the residents in Boston blog. All right, let's try these two. Round your answers to the nearest hundredth. All right, 7 over 1,600. Set up my proportion. I need it to be out of 100. Cross multiply. Divide both sides by 1,600 to get y by itself. 700 divided by 1,600. It rounded to the nearest hundredth is 0.44. So our answer is 44/100%. Seventeen 25ths. Set up my proportion again. Cross multiply. Divide both sides by 25 to get x by itself. And we get 68, so we have an answer of 68%. All right, so here we have a little, diagram that shows us how we move between fractions, decimals, and percents. We can go back and forth between them. And percents, fractions, and decimals are different names that represent the same number. So we have 5/6, which is a fraction, and we want to write it as a decimal, or as a percent, rounded to the nearest hundredth. So what we need to do, following our chart, we're going to go to a decimal form first. So 5/6 as a decimal, if I take my numerator divided by my denominator, I get 0.8333 repeating, which we'll write it like that. Then to go from a decimal to a percent, we know that we move the decimals 2 spots to the right. Now we round this to the nearest hundredth, so 88 33/100%. Okay, next one. Bryce has read 3/5 of a book. What percent of the book has he read? 3/5. Numerator divided by denominator is 6/10. Now to go from a decimal to a percent, move your decimal 2 to the right, fill in with a 0. So 60%. Okay. Here are 2 for you to try on your own and then come back and check. 5/16, let's write that as a decimal first. Numerator divide by denominator. Okay, 0.3125. Turn this into a percent by moving my decimal 2 to the right. So 31 and 25/100%. Okay, 2/9 is equal to 0.222, and it keeps going. Repeated. Okay, now to turn this into a percent, move your decimal 2 to the right. So 22 and, again, round to the nearest hundredth, 22/100%. All right, you can always go back and rewatch any parts of the video or look in your textbook for more examples. Otherwise, head on over and take your 6-9 NICU quiz at this time.